Did you know that the tradition of student apprentices studying technique and theory under the guidance of master artists is older than the Renaissance? Do you wish you could experience what that was like to sit in a studio surrounded by art students at every level of expertise and listen to their work as it was being critiqued and guided by masters of their craft? Now imagine you can get that experience every month simply by becoming a Barnstone Patreon supporter. My name is Kat Barnstone Safran, daughter of master artist and educator Myron Barnstone, who for over 35 years instructed thousands of aspiring artists of every age and artistic background. We're carrying on his legacy of classical atelier-style art education through our Master Guide program, and you're invited. Become a Patreon supporter at the $25 or higher level, and you'll have access to the full mentoring sessions between Barnstone students and their chosen master guides. Here's just a short sample of a full-length sessions that you can enjoy every month.
Okay. So one thing I've been noticing about your bottle tops is like the shapes get a little bit vague. I think you just need to make a little bit more distinction about like the specific points of corners. And then
Okay.
being a lot more clear in how those lines like stop and start. Because it looks like you just kind of get a bit like rounded on some things, and like the points need to be a lot more like defined in corners. So you just think of things as like simplifying into like 45-degree angle, vertical, 45-degree angle, straight vertical, 45-degree angle, and then you have like vertical. So just think about like tightening the shapes up into much more sharp points. I think that'll help
Okay.
get a lot more clarity. But your bottle top here is really nice. This one, the proportions are a little bit weird with like the top section being the same size as the bottom section. But I think he might have like cleaned that up in later versions. But I like this one's really nice. This one's like perfect. So good job on that one. One thing about the composition, just to think about with this, is like something that kind of like stands out to me is you have this really tiny space here, and then you have like a medium space here, and then you have the large space of the bottle here. I usually like for the facing direction of things, I usually would prefer to structure them um, structure them as like the medium piece here, a small piece here, and then your large piece. So then I think that would communicate better arrangement, more like in this orientation, because right now it feels a bit like the arrangement is like kind of making this sort of shape, which faces almost backwards, if that makes sense. But that's just probably like a small nitpick. I mean, otherwise it's like a good composition, like everything is like arranged nicely and reads very well. But just something to think about, like with the size of shapes and on like one side versus the other, like can kind of like influence the facing direction a bit more. So here on the right is demo I did of the bottles for the rendering. So what I was saying about the spacing is I have a medium size space here. This is slightly smaller, but then this is the large space.
Yeah.
So you get this space, this shape as a bit more substantial and dominant. And then this one is the medium size, and this one's like the small one. And then the lids form this kind of slightly angled ellipse. So it's almost like they're arranged more in this sort of semicircle fashion.
Mm.
See if I can trace these. Yeah. So you see the path feels a bit more like open to this side. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. And then where would that be? That would be, I mean, you do have this, I think, perfectly in line with the vertical, which is fine. I don't know. I'm just trying to like give you more to think about, like in terms of like the shapes and different ways that like the arrangements affect like the characteristics. Just like something to think about, you know, in your photography and like how you might try to like organize and compose the shapes. But otherwise, like it's good composition. Another thing to consider with it would be like where exactly you intersect things. So in the middle of a halfway point isn't the most interesting. Like it's not a wrong option. But like a 1-to-1 ratio isn't always like the most interesting. So oftentimes I usually go for like a third of where something's going to intersect something else instead of like the halfway point, just because that gives you like a small piece and a large piece instead of like two pieces of the same size. So you create a bit more variety by like intersecting something on a third. Okay, so just looking through your gesture drawings. Gesture drawings are really good. You got a really great aerial perspective to them. A lot of people have a hard time, I mean, myself included. I'm a very heavy-handed person. It takes a lot of like mental focus to, you know, do different like pressures. So very good job on the aerial perspective here. Yeah, your gestures are all like really good. I really enjoy these. Like, good job on these. All right, so that's lesson 2. Let's look at lesson. All right, I think this is one of your earlier umbrellas. What are you using for the thicker lines?
That would be charcoal.
Okay. It gets a bit like heavy and messy. You could probably use like a HB pencil or like a softer graphite. That might be a little easier to get like a sharper but still dark line.
No, I tried getting them today, but I couldn't. I mean, they're not around. Maybe I have to order them.
Okay, yeah. So good job on these gestures. These are really nice. The ellipses look good. The squares look good. Very good construction. Good like line weight, line quality. Like really good.
Join us in keeping Myron's legacy alive. Join the Barnstone Patreon today. Follow the link embedded below, and you'll get full-length lessons just like these, plus much, much more every month. You'll learn a new, fresh perspective, insight, and technique with every session. We really can't wait to see you there. As Myron would always say, thank you and be well.